Capping off their already pristine 2001 season, the Miami Hurricanes rolled over the Nebraska Cornhuskers to win their 5th national championship and their first since 1991. Head coach Larry Coker didn't accomplish the impossible, merely the implausible. Before being selected Coach of the Year by an overwhelming majority, Coker became the first rookie head coach to lead his team to the pinnacle of college football since 1948. But even before the novelty of the Rose Bowl victory could wilt, Coker and his staff focused on their next challenge, taking it to Tempe. For a team with the talent and depth of the 2001 Hurricanes, this seemed a reasonable goal. However, in the offseason, the Hurricanes met several obstacles. Miami lost a record 11 players to the NFL, 5 going in the first round. Several positions were particularly hard hit. The offensive line lost Outland Trophy winner Bryant McKinney and All-American right tackle Joaquin Gonzalez. The defense also lost its entire secondary. Also departing early for the draft was star halfback Clinton Portis and the team's leading receiver, Jeremy Shockey. The second offseason hurdle the Canes faced was the loss of one key player through injury. Tailback freshman phenom Frank Gore suffered an ACL tear during spring practice. In an effort to combat the health woes in the backfield, Willis McGahee steps into Gore's shoes as the starting tailback. Junior wide receiver Jason Gathers slides in as McGahee's backup. Ken Dorsey, after finishing third in the Heisman balloting the previous year, returns for his senior season. Dorsey comes in as Miami's all-time leading touchdown passer and ranks second in both passing yards and total offense. To cap off the 2001 season, Dorsey mauled the Cornhuskers with 362 yards and 3 touchdowns, earning Rose Bowl co-MVP honors. Completing the other half of the Rose Bowl MVP duo is Dorsey's favorite target, Andre Johnson. The junior reeled in almost 200 yards in the national championship win, entering the season ranked first in both the AP and coaches polls for the first time since 1992. The Hurricanes will face each opponent's A-game on their quest to a second straight national championship. An excruciating non-conference schedule awaits the Hurricanes with the likes of SEC powers Florida and Tennessee on the road, and arch-rival Florida State in the Orange Bowl. In addition, Miami has to worry about facing a much-improved Big East Conference schedule. Strike up the band. Entering the season opener, there's more talk about the Week 2 showdown against intrastate rival Florida than the task at hand, beating Florida A&M. The Division I AA Rattlers returned to the Orange Bowl for the first time since 1999, when they were drummed to the tune of 57-3. The Hurricanes greet the Orange Bowl crowd for the first time since the Rose Bowl, confident and heavily favored. And it takes 10 snaps for the Canes faithful to come alive.
McGahee, 10-5. That's what I'm talking about, Willis.
Ken Dorsey then finds his new target at the all-important tight end position. Less than 5 minutes into the contest, the Canes have a 14-0 lead. The first quarter onslaught continues as Dorsey finds familiar target Andre Johnson for the 3rd touchdown. And before the Rattlers can catch their breath, redshirt freshman Roscoe Parrish looks more like Santana Moss on the end around.
There goes Roscoe, and this is going to be a Miami touchdown.
In the second quarter, the Hurricanes show no signs of relenting. Dorsey connects with Ethnic Sands, and there are 35 unanswered. With that, Dorsey's day is finished, and he settles back on the sideline as UM's all-time winningest quarterback. Miami uses the game to empty the benches and get playing time for many of its reserves. Many of the personnel questions before the game took a step toward being answered.
Tonight is kind of a first test. It's our casting the first stone. It's kind of letting
the offensive line held strong, keeping Dorsey's jersey clean. The running game benefited from the offensive line's play as well. 316 total yards rushing, and 199 of those to Jason Gathers, playing his first game at halfback since high school. The defense stood tall, allowing only 94 yards passing while recording 7 sacks. The nation's longest winning streak is now 23 games, and the Hurricanes are primed to charge into the swamp, eager for the taste of gator meat. Get your waders. We're going to the swamp. The Hurricanes' first trip to the swamp in 16 years promised to be no pleasure cruise, but trips to the swamp seldom are. The focus coming into the game gravitates around Heisman Trophy candidates Rex Grossman and Ken Dorsey. The uncertain Miami secondary will face its first true challenge in Grossman and the pass-intensive Gators offense. However, the #1 Hurricanes enter confident despite coming into the game as a 2-point underdog.
Let's have fun. Let's have fun. And guys, somebody's going to flinch today. I'm telling you, somebody's going to flinch today. Somebody's going to flinch today. Make up your mind right now, I ain't going to flinch. I ain't going to flinch. I'm going to make that guy across from me flinch. Make them flinch. Make them flinch. Don't flinch. Good luck.
The first quarter starts slowly. The sole point scored result from a Todd Severs field goal, giving the Hurricanes a slight advantage heading into the second quarter. After a second Miami field goal, the Gators strike back quickly. Running back Ernest Graham scores from 18 yards away. And just over 2 minutes later, Florida is in prime real estate again after a block punt. But 3 plays later, they're forced to settle for a field goal. As the Gators take the lead, Dorsey softens the will of the hostile crowd by answering with a Hurricane drive. Dorsey finds Andre Johnson from the Gator 7, putting Miami back on top. After a defensive stand on Grossman and the Florida offense, Dorsey connects with Ethnic Sands to lift the halftime lead to 20-10. Returning from halftime, it takes the Canes just over 2 minutes to push the ball downfield. And this time, it's Gathers from Dorsey and a 27-10 Miami lead. But the Gator defense steps up to the challenge, picking off Dorsey and taking it to pay dirt. The Gators trail just 27-16 after a failed 2-point conversion. The momentum shifts toward the Gators. With the comeback at their fingertips, Grossman forces the ball over the middle. Streak is 24. Doubt concerning the Hurricanes secondary begins to fade with the victory in Gainesville. Fans are also reassured of Miami's running game, with Willis McGahee hammering out 204 yards rushing on 24 carries. The Heisman battle between the two quarterbacks is also settled. Grossman goes without a touchdown throw for the first time in 2 years. While Dorsey was picked off 3 times, he came out looking better than Grossman, throwing 4 touchdowns in the Miami win. Now with the 2-0 start and the first major challenge of the season behind them, the Hurricanes were headed for Philadelphia. Temple of Doom.
I don't care who we play. I don't care where we dress. I don't care where we play. Nobody's going to keep us from winning. Good luck. Good luck.
The Hurricanes blow onto Franklin Field confident, with 10 straight victories against the woeful Owls. Temple last beat Miami in 1930, and 72 years later, the Owls are all but dropped from the Big East after serving as conference doormat for years. Temple's only hope, an emotional letdown following the Florida win. 8 minutes into the game, it's the increasingly familiar face of Willis McGahee punching the ball through the Owl defense to give the Hurricanes a 7-0 lead. On the ensuing kickoff, Temple can't handle the ball, and the Hurricanes have a fresh start from the Owls' 10-yard line. With the Temple defense still trying to regain footing, Dorsey hits Kevin Beard, and the score is quickly 14-0. The Canes initiate the second quarter by marching the ball 80 yards and cap off the drive. But the second quarter joyride hits a snag on Miami's next possession. The Canes are forced to punt, but Freddie Capshaw can't handle the snap. The result, a 1-yard Temple touchdown. Suddenly the Owls are back in the game when Jason Gathers coughs the ball up, returning it to the Temple offense in the red zone. One play later, the Owls are down by just 7. Miami still has a 10-point lead going into the locker room, but it's not enough for Ken Dorsey and the Canes.
Hey, come out and dominate this half now. We're dominating this half. Hey, defense, we're gonna set the tone, baby. Defense set the tone.
Miami returns in the second half, wasting little time answering any doubters. Willis McGahee has his third touchdown on the ground. Before the quarter can expire, the Hurricanes break the will of the Temple defense as they go 70 yards down the field. Again, McGahee puts points on the board with his 4-yard touchdown run. The point after fails, but the Hurricanes have a dominant 37-14 lead at the end of the third. In the fourth, Ethnic Sands takes a Dorsey pass and takes off for 53 yards. Dorsey then hits the tight end Kellen Winslow for a touchdown. The final score, 44-21, Miami. Dorsey finishes the game with 365 yards to his credit, and McGahee's fourth touchdown, 134-yard rushing performance balances the offensive attack. Revenge factor. Boston College comes to South Florida following last year's near upset of top-ranked Miami. Though they come into the game as 4-touchdown underdogs, the Eagles could once again prove to be a challenge. At the end of the first period, the defenses are left in a staring contest. Neither allows a single point. Miami is first to blink in the second quarter as the Eagles drive the field for a 35-yard field goal. But the Canes are unshaken, and Severs answers with a 45-yard field goal of his own to tie the game at 3. The Boston College offense returns to the field with its ball control game, pounding away at the Miami defense before tacking on another 3 points. The Hurricanes are treading on unfamiliar ground and are at risk of trailing at halftime for the first time since their last loss to Washington in 2000. As the second quarter nears an end, the Hurricanes begin to show the tenacity of a defending champion. Dorsey hands off to McGahee on a draw play. 4 broken tackles and 48 yards later, he's finally stopped. He finishes the job on the next play, powering the ball in to give the Hurricanes a 10-6 lead at intermission. Miami returns to the field with renewed determination and fire. 6 plays in, Willis McGahee scores from the 5. In the fourth quarter, he's at it again. McGahee pulls in 86 yards receiving, on top of another 135 on the ground. Blood is in the water. The feeding frenzy is on when D.J. Williams causes a fumble and Jonathan Vilma takes it home. Then, off an Eagles turnover, it's Dorsey to Andre Johnson for the icing on the cake. Dorsey packs away 202 yards through the air. 38-6, the Canes win again. 19 straight wins in the Big East, and 18 in a row at home. Miami has rediscovered their killer instinct, which is bad news for overmatched UConn, coming into the Orange Bowl next. The Snowballs' chance in South Florida. The Huskies will replace Tempe when they officially join the Big East in 2005. In their first meeting ever with Miami, UConn expects a warm welcome in the Orange Bowl only from the South Florida climate. The Huskies serve as the final tune-up for Miami before the yearly grudge match with bitter in-state rival Florida State. From the opening kickoff and first series, it's evident to all that Miami is not looking past the Huskies. In a span of just over 15 minutes, Willis McGahee puts 3 touchdowns on the board, and the Canes are off and running. His first touchdown run of 15 yards clocks in at just under 3 minutes into the contest. Then he's in again later in the first, again from 15 yards out. McGahee completes the touchdown hat trick as the second quarter begins. 21-0, Miami. Next, Andrew Williams gets into the box score for the first time in his career when Vince Wilfork gets to UConn, causing a fumble. Williams scoops it up off the turf and runs into the green vastness bathed in cheers of the home crowd. Dorsey bounces back from an earlier interception and connects with Kevin Beard for 2 scores before heading into the halftime locker room. The Huskies enter the break buried 42-0 and face the daunting prospect of coming out to play the second half. Yet they return to the field, and Dorsey doles out more of the same. After another drive, he connects with Ethnic Sands, and the senior has his 3rd touchdown toss of the evening. After a missed extra point, the score remains 48-0. Dorsey settles back for some well-deserved rest after going 19 out of 26 and collecting 216 yards passing and 3 touchdowns. The defense held strong once again in this dress rehearsal for what promises to be their toughest test of the developing season when Bobby Bowden and the Seminoles come to town. The measuring stick. In recent years, the battles between these teams have served as a prelude to the national championship, with Grossman and the Gators by the wayside. A victory today would give the Hurricanes statewide bragging rights. Miami comes into the game favored to win and increase their streak to 3 in a row over the Seminoles. Despite suffering through their worst season in 16 years, the Seminoles were picked as a top 5 title contender by almost every major publication and preseason poll. However, it's been anything but smooth sailing thus far for the Seminoles, who have already suffered a defeat at the hands of Louisville. But traditionally in this bitter rivalry, one can toss stats and records out the window. Florida State comes into the game with one of the best offensive lines and defenses in the country. In this high noon showdown, the Hurricanes go for their guns. They begin just where they left off against UConn, driving the ball 91 yards in 13 plays before McGahee bullies his way into the end zone to put the Canes up 7-0. The Noles know that if left unchecked, the Miami offense can unleash their brand of frantic mayhem. The Seminoles are allowed a reprieve when the Miami offense seems to go into self-destruct mode in the second quarter. A pair of pass interference calls and offsides penalty aids an 85-yard FSU journey. The Seminoles are on the board. Dorsey and the Canes miss the opportunity for redemption on their next drive and give FSU the ball in a head full of steam. Trailing 17-7, the Hurricanes attempt to mount a drive before intermission. This time, Dorsey and the offense looked more like their old selves. From 5 yards away, Dorsey finds Kellen Winslow with 26 seconds left in the half. With the extra point, the FSU lead is cut to 17-14. But the Hurricanes go into the locker room trailing for the first time ever under head coach Larry Coker. Both teams come out in the third quarter with superb defensive play. The Canes endure more frustration when Dorsey's 52-yard bomb to Roscoe Parrish is called back due to a chop block. The only score of the quarter comes on an FSU field goal. It's 20-14 at the end of 3. The scene continues to look grim for the Hurricanes when the Seminoles take their first possession of the fourth quarter and add another touchdown when Greg Jones breaks in, bagging 11 of his 189 yards for the game. The Hurricanes fight back. Dorsey steps up for the gut check and demonstrates what it means to be a champion. He leads the Canes 70 yards and caps it off with a clutch touchdown toss to Kevin Beard with just over 8 minutes remaining. 27-21, Florida State. The Seminoles cannot answer. The Miami defense steps up and forces them to punt, and then
Dorsey drops the throw, 4-man rush, screen to McGahee, far sideline, 20, McGahee 25, here we go, 35, 40, McGahee, he's got a lot of room, he might go, 30, 20, 15, 10, and down. Willis McGahee all the way to the 8-yard line. Nice snap, inside to Gathers, to the 10, 5, 1, Jason Gathers, touchdown, Jason Gathers.
It ain't time to break out the champagne yet, but you can put it in the cooler.
But this game is far from over. A 3-yard punt by Freddie Capshaw gives FSU the ball on their own 46. From there, Ricks goes to work. After a pair of passes, a pair of runs fail to gain any yards. With no timeouts, Ricks must spike the ball before time expires. It's all up to the FSU kicker. Once again, Florida State will kick to determine the outcome of the game. FSU lost close games to Miami on shorter field goals in 91 and 92, both wide right. Then, 2 years ago, another attempt went wide right. Dorsey can't watch as he stands helpless on the sideline.
Just inside the right hash mark. Here we go. 3 times before wide right. Wally Wade, snap is low. Kick is up, and it's no good. It's wide left. It's wide left. No good. Miami wins. Miami wins.
The Canes escape 28-27. Miami will certainly enjoy their upcoming bye week. Heading to the hills. It's time for Miami to head for the hills to face a West Virginia team boasting a powerful running game. The Mountaineers, led by all Big East tailback Avon Coburn, no doubt took notice of FSU's success on the ground 2 weeks before. Miami begins the first of 3 road games with a quick start. Ken Dorsey throws, Andre Johnson catches, and the Canes are up 7. But the Mountaineers reply quickly. Coburn punches it in from 7, and the game is tied. Miami gets 3 more points to take the lead into the second frame. Late in the half, Dorsey comes alive, completing 4 of 5 attempts, including a 22-yard pass to Beard, setting up McGahee, who scores from the 1. A West Virginia field goal cuts the Miami lead to 17-10, going into the half. The third quarter doesn't start out as drawn up for the Canes. McGahee's second fumble of the game comes on the first possession of the new half, giving the Mountaineers the ball. 3 plays later, Rasheed Marshall stumbles onto pay dirt, and the game is tied at 17. But standing toe-to-toe with the defending national champions, West Virginia falters. Willis McGahee atones for his earlier fumble by pulling in a short pass from Dorsey and taking it 57 yards down to the West Virginia 2-yard line. The Mountaineers dig deep for that last bit of resolve to fight off the Miami attack. Miami marches 80 yards on its next drive, facilitated by a Dorsey to Quatron Hill 45-yard connection. Dorsey then finds Andre Johnson, and the lead is 30-23. The Miami defense has been tested before, and they endured. Today it has been tested again, but by the fourth quarter, they have outlasted their opponents and put the clamps down. As the case has been all season, the offense kicks into fourth quarter blowout mode. Dorsey catches Winslow down the sideline for 58, and then he hits Johnson for 24 more. McGahee reaps the benefits, gaining his third rushing touchdown of the game. 40-23, the final. The Hurricanes are once again able to put away a close game in the final 15 minutes. The winning streak is now 29 and ties the school record. Dorsey continues the record setting as he moves into the top spot on Miami's all-time list for passing yards, completions, and total offense. In addition, he amassed a career-high 422 yards. Jousting with a Hurricane. The Hurricanes intend to be anything but chivalrous to former UM defensive coordinator Greg Schiano as the Canes journey to meet his Scarlet Knights in Piscataway, New Jersey. The beleaguered Knights come into the duel with the Hurricanes 1-7 and are winless in the Big East since 1999. Yet they hope to shock the confident Canes and the world. Early in the first quarter, they do just that, driving 80 yards. Rutgers gets into the end zone and takes a 7-0 lead. The Hurricanes attempt to return the favor on their next possession. Despite a 68-yard carry by McGahee, the Canes are unable to get into the end zone, but instead get it through the uprights. After another Sievers kick in the second quarter, the Rutgers lead is 1. Miami continues to add points, a few at a time. This time it's the defense, dragging Hart down in the end zone for a safety to give the Hurricanes an 8-7 lead. Trailing 10-8 near halftime, the Miami special teams falter. The Hurricanes get the ball back and begin to march. This time, Willis McGahee once again breaks free with a long run of 43 yards. Then, knocking on the door. One play later, Willis McGahee cuts the Rutgers lead to 3 with a touchdown. But once again, Miami will finish the first half with a deficit. The second half begins much as the previous concluded, finding the Knights at the Miami 6-yard line. Fourth down, Rutgers' fake field goal attempt doesn't fool the Hurricanes. The Knights still hold on to a lead at the end of a scoreless third quarter. Hurricane fans watch as Dorsey leaves the field. He returns a play later with tape on his wrist and an abundance of determination. Dorsey first hits Johnson from the 20, then Winslow from a yard out, and the Canes lead 28-17. Finally playing like defending champs again, McGahee gets 4 of his 187 yards for the game on the third UM touchdown of the fourth quarter. The Hurricanes are forced to rally to win for the third straight game. After the close game last week against West Virginia, the Canes lose some first-place votes, but still record their 500th victory in school history. Good old Rocky Top. To get their 31st straight, the Hurricanes must subdue the Tennessee Volunteers. The Vols look to be one of the Canes' toughest challenges, ranked in the preseason top 10. However, the Big Orange was not having quite the season many predicted. Any chance to salvage the season rests upon their homecoming game against the Hurricanes. In their first visit to Neyland Stadium, The Hurricanes intend to answer to the criticism after struggling for 3 quarters against Rutgers. Following the game with the Knights, Miami also dropped from the #1 position in the polls for the first time this season. After the reception of the opening kickoff, the Volunteers strike first, but Cedric Houston fires up the middle of the Miami defense. He explodes for 74 yards before being dragged down at the UM 4-yard line. The crowd of 107,745 erupts. The Hurricane defense maintains its focus and holds the Vols 3 straight plays, forcing them to settle for a field goal. The home crowd doesn't cheer for long, though. Jason Gathers takes the ensuing kickoff back 52 yards, and the Canes start in excellent field position. The Miami offense cuts deeper into Vol territory, but the Tennessee defense returns the favor and holds the Hurricanes to a 37-yard Todd Severs field goal. The suffocating Hurricane defense clamps down on the Volunteers, forcing a punt on their next possession. Once again, the Canes have their way. Dorsey takes UM down the field, resulting in another Severs field goal. The second quarter continues as the first ended. Miami controls both sides of the ball, with McGahee and Dorsey keeping the befuddled Vols off balance. Dorsey then connects with Andre Johnson, racing for a 44-yard gain. McGahee finishes the job, tying a school record with his 17th touchdown of the season, putting the Hurricanes up by 10. Severs knocks home 2 more field goals before the conclusion of the first half. Miami goes into intermission, dominating the Volunteers, 19-3. Almost all hope for a Tennessee second-half comeback is extinguished when Casey Clausen does not return for the third quarter after re-injuring his foot. Nine minutes into the third quarter, Miami puts the game away. Dorsey throws for 245 yards, while McGahee picks up 154 on 30 carries, as Miami wins its 16th straight road game. The defending champion defense lives up to their title, wreaking havoc in the UT backfield. When they weren't chasing the Volunteer quarterbacks around, they were shutting down the running game. The Cane defense counted 7 sacks in the contest, costing the Vols a total of 40 yards. The Hurricanes silence the critics for now by playing focused football for an entire game.
You don't get respect, you take it.
I don't know what our record is, but we're undefeated. That's all that matters. So, hey, I'm happy. #1, baby.
The pitter-patter of a new rivalry. Following the domination in Knoxville, the Hurricanes trade places with Ohio State to regain the #1 ranking, but only by the slightest margin. With talk surrounding the possible Fiesta Bowl meeting between the two, Coker and the Canes are determined to remain focused on Big East Bowl Pittsburgh. The Panthers are undefeated in the Big East and have won 9 straight within the conference. The Thursday night game is nationally televised. The Canes have been idle for nearly 2 weeks since the Tennessee game and have had plenty of time to study Pittsburgh. Exceptional play by the Canes special teams puts them up early.
Trouble against Virginia Tech. End over end. Parrish fields it at the 23. Here's a reverse. Near side. It's Sean Taylor to the 30. He's got room at the 40. He's got room at the 50. Cuts back at the 40. Still on his feet. One man to beat at the 20. 15, 10, 5. Sean Taylor. Touchdown, Miami. Oh, what a play. A reverse. And it goes for 79 yards.
The Hurricanes fail to take advantage after holding Pitt on the ensuing possession. The Panthers pick Dorsey off at the UM 31. 5 plays later, Rod Rutherford finds Larry Fitzgerald from 5 yards away to tie the game at 7. The game remains a standoff until late in the second quarter, when Pitt takes the lead for the first time. But it's short-lived, with Dorsey struggling, completing only 5 of 15 passes in the first half. McGahee picks up the slack. He charges 69 yards, and with just over 2 minutes left in the half, the game is tied once again. As has been his strength all season, Dorsey leaves the first half in the locker room and returns to the field with renewed determination. Going 3 for 3 on the opening drive of the second half, Dorsey leads the Hurricanes 71 yards in 4 plays. He caps it off with a 30-yard pass to Andre Johnson for a touchdown and the lead. The Panthers appear to be up to the challenge, driving to the Miami 21. But DJ Williams forces a fumble, which Maurice Sykes recovers for the Canes. The Canes get on the board again to extend their lead to 14.
McGahee going wide behind Kyle Cobia. McGahee into the end zone. That's what I'm talking about, Willis. 7
With the score, McGahee breaks the Miami single-season record of 19 touchdowns. Pittsburgh refuses to quit, and the defense steps up late in the contest, giving themselves one last chance to tie. On 4th down, the Panthers take a shot, but it's overthrown. The Canes pull it off once again. It isn't all good news, though. Helped off the field in the second quarter is receiver Kevin Beard and defensive end Cornelius Green. Both are out for the season with torn ACLs. Invasion of Little Orange Men. The Hurricanes look to finish off the long weekend by polishing off some Thanksgiving leftovers with a side of Orangemen. The Hurricanes cling to a razor-thin lead over Ohio State in the BCS. Syracuse is in the midst of its first losing season since 1986. The two Heisman candidates sharing a backfield waste no time applying the Orange Crush.
Johnson in motion. Hand off Lewis McGahee, right side of the 40. 45, here we go. 50, 45, 40. He may go all the way. 30, 25, 20. One man to beat at the 10, to the 5, to the 4. Lewis McGahee, touchdown Hurricanes.
McGahee gains the single-season school record for most touchdowns, all-purpose yards, and points. The onslaught continues on the next Canes possession. Dorsey finds Ethnic Sands for 23 yards and a 14-0 lead with a minute left in the first quarter. Dorsey to Andre Johnson touchdown pass pushes the Canes lead to 3 touchdowns. Dorsey throws for 345 yards, 2 touchdowns, and no interceptions on the day. Coming out of the halftime locker room up 21-7, Ken Dorsey finds Andre Johnson again, setting up Quad Hill for a TD run. Then McGahee tears off another long one. This time, it's for 51 yards. And the Miami lead is 35-7 at the end of the third. With Ohio State waiting in Tempe, while Miami waits in line for a ticket, the Canes decide to send a telegram ahead. With the game well in hand, the Hurricanes pull off a fake punt. Punter Freddie Capshaw makes the 47-yard toss to Sean Taylor, who finds the end zone for the second straight week. But the Hurricanes still aren't finished. Not until Maurice Sykes snags the ball out of the air and is off to the races. 53 yards and a touchdown. Miami wins 49-7.
Number 1, baby. All the Canes fans around the nation watching, take it all the way, baby.
33 is the streak, 23 in the Big East, and the Hurricanes are playing their best football of the season. Only Virginia Tech stands between the Canes and their dream of a repeat. What's a Hokie, anyway?
All the way, this is it. Last stop before Tempe.
With a ticket to Tempe just 60 minutes away, the Orange Bowl says goodbye to the Miami seniors. Standing in the way of perfection is a sputtering Virginia Tech team which has lost 3 of its last 4. Before 76,000 fans, the Hurricanes wasted no time getting on the scoreboard. After a pass from Ken Dorsey to Andre Johnson, Willis McGahee muscles his way across the goal line. On Miami's next possession, Andre Johnson beats the entire Virginia Tech secondary and tightropes his way down the sideline toward the pylon. 14-0 Miami, and the fans are starting a fiesta of their own. But the Hokies would try to crash the party in the second quarter with a touchdown of their own. Lee Suggs gets into the end zone with the ball, but feels it from Sean Taylor. The rest of the quarter belonged to McGahee. In a 6-minute span, McGahee would record not one, not two, but 3 touchdowns to give Miami a 35-14 advantage. 4 touchdowns already for McGahee, and Virginia Tech is stunned. But the Hokies would respond with a drive late in the first half. A spectacular catch cuts the Miami lead to 2 touchdowns at halftime. Four touchdowns apparently weren't nearly enough for McGahee, as Miami came out of the halftime locker room.
Counter to McGahee. Trying to bounce wide, goal line, touchdown. Willis McGahee ties a school record, his 5th touchdown of the day. From the Hokie 31. McGahee. McGahee with a burst. Willis McGahee. He'll take it outside. That is a new school record. Willis McGahee takes it to the crib for the 6th time today.
Miami seemed well on their way to its 2nd straight national championship game with a 49-21 lead. McGahee clearly showcased his Heisman talents, but an opportunity for Ken Dorsey to reveal his receiving skills backfired. Keeps Tech in the game.
I don't believe this. Willie Pyle is going to take it to the house.
But then, it was back to business for Miami. The Hurricanes' 8th touchdown of the game proves to be the dagger in the Hokies' heart.
You can break out the chips and salsa now. It's official.
At the 31-yard line, Dorsey takes 2 steps, kneel down, and it's time to go crazy, baby. The Canes are going back to the national championship game.
A season which started in the Orange Bowl in August concludes 3 months later with yet another undefeated regular season. A modern dynasty is clearly in the making. With their eyes on the prize for the 2nd straight year, the Hurricanes are taking it to Tempe to face Ohio State for a shot at back-to-back national championships. The test in Tempe. The Hurricanes' final test could prove to be their toughest. To claim back-to-back championships, Miami must defeat the hungry Buckeyes of Ohio State, who yearn for their first title in 34 years. The only 2 teams to remain unbeaten in the 2002 season meet in Tempe, Arizona, but only 1 team can leave as champion. The flashy Hurricanes must square off against hard-nosed Ohio State. In his final collegiate game, Ken Dorsey must weather the storm of a Buckeye defense that allowed only 12 points per game. Adding to the challenge is a sea of red, marking the Ohio State faithful who flocked to Tempe to cheer on their beloved Buckeyes. The story of the first half is defense. The swarming Miami defense shuts down the Ohio State running game, while the Buckeye front 4 keep the Hurricane offense off balance. The Canes strike first when Ken Dorsey connects with Kellen Winslow for a big gain deep into Buckeye territory. Then it's Dorsey to Roscoe Parrish to put the Canes up 7-0. Following a turnover, the Miami defense is not fooled by an Ohio State fake field goal, forcing the Buckeyes to turn the ball over on downs. turnovers continue to plague the Hurricanes, leading to a pair of Ohio State touchdowns. Miami goes into the half trailing 14-7. The second half begins with an exciting series of plays. The Buckeyes are threatening again when Sean Taylor logs his second pick of the day, preventing a touchdown. But Ohio State halfback Maurice Clarett regains possession for the Buckeyes. 4 plays later, Mike Nugent extends the lead to 10 with a 44-yard field goal. Late in the third quarter, the Hurricanes fight back as they hammer out a 55-yard drive. Kellen Winslow pulls in several clutch catches, setting up Willis McGahee, and the deficit is cut to 3. Early in the fourth quarter, tragedy strikes. McGahee suffers a serious blow and is finished for the night. Now facing their toughest challenge of the season, the Hurricanes dig deep once more. A defensive stop with 2 minutes to go forces the Buckeyes to punt. Roscoe Parrish breaks it 50 yards, placing Miami in field goal range on first down. 4 plays later, Todd Severs sends the game into overtime. Miami begins the overtime period on offense. As he has done all evening, Ken Dorsey spots Kellen Winslow for another touchdown and Miami's first lead since the opening quarter. On their ensuing possession, the Buckeyes are granted a reprieve. A questionable call on 4th and goal extends Ohio State a fresh set of downs. The late flag from the far corner of the end zone comes when the game appears to be over, tearing the precious title from within the Hurricanes' grip. 3 plays later, Craig Grenzel sneaks over the plate and forces a second overtime. The energized Buckeyes take the field and quickly regain the lead as Clarett stretches for his second touchdown of the night. Ken Dorsey and the Hurricanes have their backs to the wall and face a 4th and goal from the 1-yard line. The streak ends at an impressive 34 games, and despite a valiant effort, Coker and the Hurricanes are deprived of their shot at a second consecutive national championship by a span of 1 yard.
Sometimes the ball just doesn't bounce your way. Bounce theirs tonight, so next time we'll have to get them. We have to do this again. It's not going to stop us from doing anything. We just got to work harder.
Some people may feel we got robbed. Some people are hurt, disappointed. Some people are lucky to come back next season so we could do it again. This time win it.